All right, this is 7th grade ratios and proportions, standard 3. We call it 7.RP.3. This is video 4. Today we're going to be talking about discounts, markups, sales tax, and tips. And again, this is all in relationship to percentages, which is what we have really been working on. I believe we've already talked about the percent of increase and decrease, and now we're going to knock out a couple more of these parts of the standard. Some terms to know, I'd like you to write these down in your journals and define them. All right, this is going to be a word problem heavy flip chart. I have a number of examples that deal with these percentages. It might be one of the longer videos, I apologize for that, but I'm going to be working out all of these problems without a calculator, so let's keep an eye on that. Finding a sale price, this is also known as a discount. So when you go to the store, sometimes they have a sale, big poster in the window that says there's a big sale today. And at this store it says there's a baseball hat that had an original price of $36. It is on sale for 30% off of the original price. What is the new price, or what is the sale price? So we know that this is going to be going down. So $36, we're going to be taking some money off of that. And we need to figure out what 30% of 36 is. So this is a multiplication problem. You can set it up if you like the proportions that we used before, or setting up two fractions to multiply each other. We know that this would be 36 over 1 multiplied by 30 over 100, and you could figure out it that way. There's another skill that I have taught in the past where I call it the 10% rule. If you want to talk about 10% rule, we know that 10% of $36 is $3.60. I know that because I can move my decimal at the end one time to the left. That is a 10% change. And we have 3.6, which is $3.60. And then if I were to do that, that was 10%, but there's 30%, so I would have to multiply $3.60 three separate times to get up to 30%. You can come up with your answer that way. Now, I haven't taught that. So what I'm going to stick to right now is I'm going to stick to our basic multiplication of percentages, or in other words, in decimals. So let's take $36 and multiply it by 30%. Now, we don't really write it that way because we know that we have to change this percentage into a decimal if we aren't going to be using a calculator. So we are going to change that to 36 multiplied by, well, we've learned that if we are going to turn a percentage into a decimal, we drop the percent sign and move our decimal at the end 2 times to the left, which would leave us at 30/100ths, also known as 0.30. Okay, so let's multiply. 6 times 0 is 0. 0 times 3 is 0. We put a little placeholder, a little smiley face for you. 3 times 6 is 18. 8 carry the 1. 3 times 3 is 9. Add the 1 is 10. Now let's make up for that decimal in our answer after we add it up. So we have 0 and a smiley face is 0. 0 and 8 is 8. And then we're ending up with our 0 and our 1. And so we have our decimal point at the end, and in our problem we have 2 decimal places taken into consideration. So that would be 1 time to the left or 2 times to the left. So we go 1, 2 times to the left, and that would leave us with 10.80, also known as $10.80. Well, that's not the cost of the hat. That's called the discount. That's what they're going to take off of the original price. So let's figure out what that is. So we have $36. Since we have some cents in there, I'm going to put 36 and 0 cents subtracted by $10. and 80 cents. Now that was our discount. That's what we're taking away. And now we're subtracting. Excuse me. 2, bring down our decimal point. 5 subtracted by 0. 3 subtracted by 1 is 2. So we have what we call the sale price. The sale price is now $25.20. So the $36 hat, with 30% of it taken away, which was $10.80, we take that away from the original and we end up with a sale price of $25.20. I'm going to go buy that hat right now. That's a pretty good deal. Excuse me again there. Okay, next part says let's find a retail price. Okay, a retail price is the price that you're going to find in the store. So when you go over to Abercrombie or Hollister, or any of those clothing stores, maybe you're going to go to a sports store like Sports Authority or any of those types of stores. You're going to pay what we call a retail price. And in this example, it looks like we're going to go get a skateboard. And the owners of the skateboard shop, they're going to go to a warehouse, let's call it, or some company that produces all these skateboards, and they're going to buy the skateboards from them at some wholesale price. So the manufacturer gives a wholesale price. And then the skateboards land in the store, let's call it Sports Authority. So they land over at the sports store, and they decide to do what we call mark it up. So the price that they got from the manufacturer, they're actually going to raise the price so that they can make a little bit of profit. We call that a markup. So our job is to figure out if this skateboard cost $70 wholesale price from the manufacturer and they marked it up 125%, what is the price going to be at Sports Authority, or what is the retail price? Okay. Well, I always like to start using my brain first. I see that I have a cost of $70 and it is going to go up by more than 100%. So, if you're just thinking $70 has to go up, 100% of it would be at least another $70. So we're at $140 plus an additional 25%. So we're going to be over $140 when we go over to the store to buy it at the retail price. So what I want to do is I want to find out exactly how much it's going to be going up. And again, there's a number of different ways that you can do this. I'll keep it pretty simple. We'll stick to the multiplication idea. And I know that I'm going to take 70 multiplied by 125%. So let's just write that out here. 70 multiplied by 125%. Now we know we don't multiply by percentages, we multiply by decimals. So we're going to take that same idea from the last problem. We're going to drop the percent sign. We're going to move our decimal 2 times to the left. And we're going to be multiplying by 1 25/100ths, also known as 1.25. So we have 70 multiplied by 1 25/100ths. Now personally, I like to have the 3-digit number above the 2-digit number, so I'm going to kind of reverse these. So I have 1 25/100ths multiplied by $70. All right, so let's go. 5 times 0, 2 times 0, 1 times 0, a nice little happy face. 7 times 5 is 35. 7 times 2 is 14, add the 3 is 17. 7 times 1, add the 1 is 8. And we're going to be adding these up. Don't forget, we have to account for the decimal in our original problem. So we only have 2 decimals, 1 to the left, 2 to the left. So we take our answer, 1 to the left, 2 to the left, drop it in there. So we have 87.50. Again, that is not the answer. That's a common error. Sometimes students just want to stop because they came up with the answer to a multiplication problem. The 8750 is actually the markup of the 125%. Remember, we said 100% was going to be 70 and our markup was going to be a little bit more than 70. Well, that additional $17.50 accounted for that extra 25%. So if we're going to do our markup on top of the original wholesale price, I know this is getting confusing. I'm using these big words. I apologize. I'll talk more about that in class. But if I were to take that 87.50 now, let's get a different color here. And then add it to the wholesale price, which is what the manufacturer at the warehouse sold it to Sports Authority for, which was $70. What is the retail price? So when we go over to Sports Authority, how much is this thing really going to cost us? And this skateboard, sorry about that, it's a 5, is, oh, that's an expensive skateboard. Now, I'm not into skateboarding, but if you are, it is going to cost you $157.50. And that is called the retail price because we bought it in the retail store. All right, last one. We're going to be finding sales tax and tip. And I picked this one out on purpose because it's going to have, again, more multiplication and then a little bit of rounding. We're going to be having to take some money and round it to the nearest cent. So let's see what all this looks like. Your dinner bill on a Monday evening was $22.79. Now, when you go to dinner at a restaurant, you have to leave what we call a tip or a gratuity. So if you left a 20% tip, and then you were charged 7% sales tax, you need to figure out what the total cost of the meal was. So we have this $22.79. We're going to give the waiter or waitress 20% of that number. We have to figure out what 20% of this number is. We're going to add it on. And then we're also going to figure out what 7% of that number is. And we're going to add it on. So when you go out to a restaurant, this $22.79 bill, when it's all said and done, is going to, go up. It's going to raise a little bit. That's part of the idea of going out to dinner sometimes, so you don't have to spend the time making the dinner, going to the store, buying the materials. It's one of the things you got to deal with when you go out to a restaurant. It's kind of nice sometimes where you don't have to do much work. There's no dishes to clean. So it's going to cost a little bit more than what the food actually is charged to. So first, let's go figure out what the tip is going to be. So if I were to do the tip, I'm going to take that $22.79 and we are going to figure out what 20% of it is. So we're going to be multiplying by 20%, and I'm not going to take you through the whole, drop the percent sign. So we know that it's going to be multiplied by 0.20 or 20 hundredths. And here we go. Nice little placeholder. All right, so 18, carry the 1. 14 plus 1 is 15, carry the 1. This is 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5, and then 2 times 2 is 4. Let's add this line up again. We have 0, 8, 5, 5, 4. Let's account for the 2 decimal places in the end, which is way off. What did we do here? 0, 0, 0, 0. $455 is not going to happen here. Excuse me. Oh, well, that's what I'm doing. I'm silly. All right, so we have 2 decimal places to account for in the bottom, 2 decimal places to account for in the 2279. That's a total of 4 decimal places. I don't know why I wasn't thinking about that. So we go 4 times to the left now. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to drop it between the 4 and the 5, so we have 4. All right, now here's what I was talking about when it comes to rounding. If I'm looking for the nearest cent, I have 4.55, but I need to look to the right, and that 8 actually tells me to round that 5 up to a 6. So we have $4.56 when it comes to the tip. Now I'm going to leave that here for a second. And we're going to go do the sales tax at 7%. Okay, so let's do sales tax. And we know that was 7%. So let's take our 2279 and multiply that by 7%, which we know is 0.07. And we're going to multiply. 9 times 7 is 63. 49 and 6 is 55. 14 and 5 is 19. 14 and 1 is 15. And then we just have a placeholder and a bunch of zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros, which is basically meaningless, but I want to put it in there for you. And here we go. We got 3, 5, 9, 5, 1. And I'm not going to make that same error. I'm going to account for all decimal places in the problem. We have 1, 2 to the left, 3 to the left, 4 to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4 to the left, which leaves us at $1 and maybe 59. But what does that 5 tell me to do to the 9? It tells me to go up 1. So it looks like this is going to have to round to $1.60. 1.60. And that is going to be the sales tax on our bill. And now we need to figure out the total cost of the meal. Now the total cost is going to be the $22.79 added to the tip, which was $4.56, added to the sales tax, which was $1.60. And I've run out of space, so I am going to do the no-no, the biggest no-no, and that is going to be using a calculator. So we have 2279, line up all our decimal points, $4.56, $1.60, add them all up, bring our decimal straight down. You know what, I'm not going to use a calculator. 9 and 6 is 15, carry the 1. That's 11, that's 19, carry the 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, and 2. So we have a total bill of $28.95. And here is your final answer in purple. Okay, not bad for an evening out at the restaurant. All right, in your journal, I'd like you to define the given terms, write a few sentences on what you learned from the video. And again, I apologize for this being a long one. I wanted to show you all that work without a calculator. And we'll do more of these in class. If anything was confusing, no worries, we'll take care of that in class. I'll see you then.